Well, 2020 has seen many, many changes, probably more than any of us have ever experienced in our lifetime in any single year. But believe it or not all of those changes have been bad. There are some big changes happening at the Saskatoon Public Library in terms of the way they lend things out to folks. Specifically, there's not going to be any fines anymore, which is exciting news if you happen to be like me sometimes and occasionally forget to return things right on time. Happy to be joined by Carol Cooley from the Saskatoon Public Library to talk about this change as well as what else is happening at the library. Carol, let's talk first of all, where did this idea stem from, the decision to no longer charge fines for overdue materials?
Well, we've long recognized that fines are barriers they present barriers to many patrons, 20,000 at the latest count. Um, so the board has been talking about this for a while, but there's been a movement that's sort of been sweeping North America and most recently in Canada and Calgary, Halifax, Vancouver, some of the libraries that have just um, gone fine free. So we decided that the time was right for Saskatoon to make that move.
And of course, that's what you folks are all about is you want to be as accessible and open to everybody as possible. And you're right. Now that these 20,000 or so people they're able to come back, no
Yeah.
longer owing those fines. That's great because obviously for a lot of these people are probably the people who need the library most.
Well, they absolutely do need the library the most. We had one individual on Facebook comment that from about the age of 10 till 25, she couldn't use the library because of fines that had accrued on her card when she was a child and then lived with her followed her into her adult life. And we don't want to see situations like that. So fines do affect some of the most vulnerable people in our community.
There's maybe going to be some misconceptions that come along with this when people hear that this thing that we all grew up with and have known our virtually our entire lives, the library charging fines that is going away. The first is you still have to return your stuff. This doesn't mean you can just keep it, right?
Right. You absolutely do have to return it. Well, like we will continue to charge for lost or damaged items. So if an item doesn't get returned, the charge for that item will go on your card and you won't be able to sign out additional materials. So there are ways to get our materials back.
Absolutely. And I think another misconception might be people might be asking, well, isn't this going to have a significant impact on the bottom line? And I guess that's also not the case. It's a relatively small amount of your annual budget that comes from these fines.
Yeah, it's been declining in recent years. It's about 0.44%. We've had a couple of amnesties in the last 5 years, and we do use values-based service. So our employees have often just waived people's fines and given them access to the library on a case-by-case basis. So we've been fine-free province-wide since about the beginning of April, so that we haven't been charging fines, and we will lift any if we've missed somebody, just ask. We'll remove those fines from your record.
Great news, certainly. And like everyone else in the city and across the country, you've, of course, had to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, which has had an impact on the way you operate. If you don't mind, just give us a bit of an update how things have been going at the library in terms of procedures and the amount of clients that you're seeing come through the doors.
Yeah, it's obviously slower than usual
Sure.
because we do limit the number of people in the space at any one time, just for that social distancing requirement. But it's been going well. We've seen a real increase in the use of our self checks. Our holds are up. Saskatoon really before COVID was really come into the library and browse and look primarily, and now. We've seen a significant increase in the number of holds being placed so that people can just come in and pick up their holds. We still do offer contactless holds for people that need them. And then the computers have received a fair bit of use. We've only been open a month, and I believe there have been over 8,000 computer sessions at the library. So that was something that was very much missed by our patrons.
Well, and I imagine that foot traffic's probably just going to increase now that maybe some of those folks have had the slate wiped clean in terms of owing some money. So
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. It seems like such a great initiative as you continue to make the library as accessible as possible. And thanks very much for chatting with us today, Carol.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm happy to spread that good news about library fines.